Biden spokesman Bill Russo said in a statement that the former vice president was pleased to support Flores and hold the event for him. Neither then nor in the years since did he or the staff with him at that time have an inkling that Ms. Flores had been at any time uncomfortable, nor do they call what she described.
Blue collar, white collar, black professors, white scholars, politicians, Dalai Lamas. Everybody in the whole wide world need hope if I be honest. I'm in that number.
Hey, good day. This is Robert Brown with the Rob Report. How you doing today? I want to apologize because brother got the pink eye, and y'all don't need to see all that redness going on today. So I'm doing this a little different. I'm gonna do this, and I'm still having issues with this live thing, but I'm gonna do this the best way I can without my chocolate milk dud head and nice smile. All right, so what I'm going to do is I want to talk about still the media responses concerning the Robert Mueller report. They're upset that it came out early. They're upset that the Attorney General get to say, have the last say so, and the FBI and blah, 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 blah. They just butt hurt. Their butt is hurting, man. Their butt hurting, man. I'm telling you, I know they felt like they did in a 70s. Anyway, let me stop. They are literally butt hurt, man. All right, so we're going to get into this. And this is Morning Joe. And, man, I tell you, since Morning Joe and Mika got married, she don't know how to be herself, man. When she was with her original husband, man, she would go toe to toe with Joe. But ever since she married Joe, man, she hasn't been saying jack. Not jack. Give me a moment. Let me go ahead and put this up. She hasn't been saying jack. Thank Joe. All right, I guess they're still partners. They're not married, right? All right, they say in 1986, Scarborough married Melanie Hinton. They have two sons and divorced in 1999. While interviewing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in June 2005, Scarborough expressed concerns about the possibility that one of his sons may have suffered a vaccine damage. Scarborough said, "My son, born in 1991, has a slight form of autism called Asperger's. When I was practicing law, as also when I was in Congress." I said in 2001, Scarborough married his second wife, Susan Warren, a former aide to Florida Governor Jeb Bush, former congressional committee staffer. And their daughter was born in August 2003, their son in 2008. Scarborough and Warren was divorced in January 2013. Scarborough currently resides in New Canaan, Connecticut, an affluent suburb near New York City. Go figure. In early 27, during the trip to Annabes, Francis, he became engaged to co-host Mika Brzezinski. They married on November 2014, 2018 in Washington, D.C. All right, so they are married. I wanted to get to that point because ever since they got married, I mean, she has been on a shh. She's not as vibrant, on fire, and confrontational like she used to be. And I don't like it. I really don't like it, but it is what it is. But we're talking about Robert Mueller and them being butthurt about the whole fact that things just didn't go the way they reported it. In news journalism, and I'm not a news journalist, I'm a commentator from the hood. In journalism, you're supposed to be able to break stories. You're supposed to be able to investigate stories. You're supposed to get the facts and report the facts. The facts. Not what it looked like. I can deal with what it looked like because I'm a thesis person anyway, a theorist. But these people are just straight up spitting out bullcrap lies. So we're going to go to the first video, and we're going to take a look at what Joe Scarborough had to say about this Russia thing with Jacob. All right, bear with me. I'm still trying to get this thing down packed.
We'll get right to the big news this morning. The president and his allies are celebrating Robert Mueller's report on Russia's interference in the 2016 election. Attorney General William Barr writes in his 4-page summary of the report that the special counsel did not find that any U.S. person or Trump campaign official or associate conspired or knowingly coordinated with Russia in Russia's efforts to influence the 2016 U.S. presidential election.
Now, before we go any further, say it did not conspire. They don't have anything that they conspired or knowingly knew that they were dealing with Russians to do something sneaky and fishy with the election. In other words, I may have talked to a Russian, but I didn't know. I talked to him, but I talked to him. We ain't set nothing up to conspire to win this election. I just talked to a Russian. And this is where I keep getting back to the fact that there's nothing wrong with talking to Russians. There's Russian American citizens of Russian dialect and descent here in the United States. They're in Washington. A lot of them work between Washington and their homeland to get things done on behalf of the people in our homeland. That's why I always say there's nothing wrong with you pushing for things for your own people in the government. That's why people get on me about ADOS. There's nothing wrong with pushing things that's going to help your community. It doesn't mean you're being racist or you're being superior or you're acting like it's all about you and things like that. I got to think about my community because it's my community. It's not yours. So I want to make sure everything happens. So even if Russians did talk to Paul Manafort, General Michael Flynn, Trump Jr., whatever, those people were trying to push things to help their country, their fellow countrymen. A lot of times some of their relatives are still in the country and they want to make sure. That's why a lot of Africans, they come to the United States and they try to lobby for things that could take place, trade agreements that can help benefit their area in Africa. They go to school here, they send money, they try to do things for their community. So when Russians come and lobby or when Russians try to come and get some kind of influence, it ain't always for evil. Now, don't get me wrong, every government have some weird espionage things going on. We are the kings at it, and I don't doubt Russia don't have that either, but it was not in the case of this.
Barr also writes that Mueller reached no
Did she say,
conclusion on whether the president conspired or knowingly coordinated with Russia in Russia's efforts to influence the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Barr also writes that Mueller reached no conclusion on whether the president obstructed justice. Barr quoting the special counsel's report on the issue of obstruction rights. While this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him.
Exactly. Now, you want to focus on it also does not exonerate him. But the fact of the matter is, this whole thing started with a fake Russian Gate narrative made up by Hillary Clinton team, John Podesta, Robbie Moot, Neera Tanden, all of them came up and conspired with this idea to try to get the heat off Hillary Clinton for looking so doggone dumb, foolish, and stupid, the loser, this stupid, dumb, foolish man. And I mean, like I say, in his lane, he probably the man, but not even in his lane, man. Trump has done so much stuff, swindling in the government, you know, bullying and moving his ways to have buildings without paying for it and stuff like that. I mean, the guy's not an up-and-up guy as people think that he is. New York knows Trump, and he is not a what they call a native son. He's a native disgrace to a lot of New Yorkers because they know what he's done here in New York City. That's why they say it does not exonerate him, because even though I knew this Russia crap was bull crap, I wasn't going for it, and I was looking forward to debunking people on it. And now I've been vindicated, and I feel good. We all know he's a crook, and we all know he's done dirty dealings before he became president, probably doing some dirty deeds while he's president, especially dealing with the Monument Clause and making money while he's in office, which he's doing. That's why I say it does not exonerate them. In other words, we don't have, if you're looking for me to arrest this guy, lock him up, take him to jail, and he's a sitting president, number one, that's not going to happen. Number two, I have nothing to lock him up for. I mean, evidence, you know, there's nothing illegal for him talking to people from other countries, and if one don't have to be Russians, fine. There's nothing wrong with Flynn talking to Russians, since you want to be on a vague termination, Joe. Russians. Michael Flynn could talk to Russia. He can go as further as talking to the Russian government. He can even go as far as talking to people from the Kremlin, because in the United States, we have freedom of speech. We can talk to whoever the heck we want to talk to, Joe. Let me keep going.
The Attorney General writes that Mueller provided him with the facts of the obstruction case and left it up to the AG to decide if the president obstructed justice. Barr writes, quote, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and I have concluded that the evidence developed during the special counsel's investigation is not sufficient to establish that the president committed an obstruction of justice offense. A senior DOJ official tells NBC News that Barr did not consult with Mueller about his summary. When asked about the summary, the special counsel's office said, quote, we're not commenting.
All right, so Ari, let's...
All right, before you say anything, Joe, this is no different from, Comey being on the Hillary Clinton tip. He investigated her without putting her on the oath, and that's what he did. And at the same time, give me a moment. Yet at the same time, because he didn't put her on the oath, it was easy for her to slip and slide her way out of the situation. Now, even though she lied through her teeth, and if he would have put her on the oath, she would have lied on the oath, and we wouldn't have this problem with Trump now. Bernie Sanders would be the president. The bottom line is, he could have put her on the oath. He did not put her on the oath, and because he didn't put her on the oath, she pretty much made a deal to be off the record when she talked. Every one of those lies that she told, they can't get her on those lies because she wasn't on the oath. So she had the freedom to lie. Trump, if he wanted to, he had the freedom to lie. You guys every day, Joe and Mika, you lie every day because it's your freedom. Politicians lie. News media lie. Why are you guys surprised? That's just what you do. You lie.
Let's break this down. First of all, something that everybody's going to know 6 months from now is the Mueller report is far different from the Barr letter. Already from people that I've been speaking with, there's a...
There you go with this already been speaking with people, spinning a narrative again, spinning something that's not fact. The basics of the Barr decision was off of Robert Mueller's report. It's the same thing that the basics of Attorney General Loretta Lynch's decision to not prosecute Hillary Clinton was based on the fact that the FBI said he found no fault in Hillary Clinton, even though she committed all these crimes
He chalked it up to the fact that she just got to be dumb as a fiddle. Matter of fact, the fiddle a little bit smarter. And I can't put this elderly lady and grandmother in jail, and I just can't do it. I just can't do it. And that's why Trump was right in firing her. And that wasn't obstruction. He has a right to fire this dude. It don't have nothing to do with obstruction. I would have fired him day one I came in. You can't do your job, man. What I look like having you being my FBI lead? You know, you can't head my FBI, doc. You got to go. I'm firing you. Obstruction of justice.
Great difference between the Barr letter and the Mueller report. And yet, everybody right now is, again, just let's be concise here. They're talking about William Barr's letter, his summary of a massive, sweeping investigation.
Now, since they're wrong, since their butt hurt, they're going to put this all on Attorney General Barr. They're going to put it all, they can't just tell the truth and just admit the fact they were wrong about this Russia trying to interfere in the election. I mean, like I said, they probably did some stuff on social media, but we do that too. Man, we'd be trying to spin stuff like I don't know what in Iran on social media. And like I said, we go as far as we topple a whole government. We don't just interfere in the election. We taking out leaders. We replacing them. We are. So we don't need to have our chest stuck out for nothing. But they're trying to put this whole thing on this guy. Mueller report came out. We can't go after Mueller because we were celebrating Mueller all year. But this guy, we don't know who this guy is. He's probably old Trump kiss up, and he's gonna kiss up to Trump. And we know Trump is telling him that no obstruction of justice. Maybe the fact that he didn't obstruct justice.
The contents of which nobody knows.
That's absolutely right. And whatever is in the Mueller report, enough of it goes against the Barr letter that he felt the need to include this non-exoneration language. He felt the need to include that there is private, unreported information about acts by the president that went in the obstruction section. He felt the need to include that for some reason, perhaps because it comes out later or because he needed to balance what the Barr letter does, which goes beyond, by definition, the Mueller report.
Yes, sir.
Yes, the Mueller report does have things in there that's damaging to Trump. I wouldn't doubt that. But it's not obstruction of justice. I guarantee you that, because him firing Comey should have been done day one. He gave Comey a chance to see if Comey going to do right. And I guess he figured, I just don't like that guy. You can fire him if you don't like him. You out, man. Look how many other people he fired or how many people stepped down. A lot of people said, I'd rather step down than you fire me. At least I got that on my resume. Nobody wants a fire on their resume. They'll rather say I resigned. And he probably give him an opportunity to resign. He probably said, look, I don't want you on this shift no more. It's your choice. Either you can get fired, have that on your record, or you can resign. Now, look, of course, the Mueller report and the Barr letter is going to have a little difference in it because Mueller report is a to be continue thing. The report already says no obstruction. The report already said no collusion, but it doesn't mean that he didn't commit any crimes while he's in office and outside office. You got to understand, Mueller investigation started out as a Russian probe, and it ended up being a ethics investigation on different members of the Trump team. Now, he should have did that ethics investigation, as Lindsey Graham would say, over on the Democratic side, too, because they do need to investigate not just emails, Lindsey Graham, but they need to investigate that old 2016 primary.
So tell me, why would Mueller take such a firm position on obstruction, but not on, or why wouldn't he take a firmer position on obstruction as he did on collusion?
Well, I think on collusion, you're looking at potential conspiracy involving multiple people. That's what conspiracies are. And so he didn't find one or more Americans were on the other side of what the Russians did in a chargeable way. No chargeable collusion. Huge finding, huge headline. We saw the signs of that as soon as Friday when he finished his probe without those indictments. On obstruction by a president, that is usually in the ballpark of either it is or isn't a high crime. It's something the House decides. Watergate is an example where the House was moving towards viewing the president's act as obstructive, and it was the House deciding that, not the actual special prosecutor. The Watergate roadmap, Joe, was famously about facts and findings, not making that decision for the House Judiciary Committee or anyone else.
Right.
And yeah, he's right on that. Halfway right. He's halfway right on that. When it comes to obstruction of justice, you got to understand, this whole thing wasn't about obstruction. It was about Russian collusion. This investigated. Robert Mueller was hired, was given a task to investigate to see whether Russia was involved. Obstruction had nothing to do with this case. Now, him getting to the bottom of this, that's when the accusations of obstruction came in, because it seemed like Trump was going to get in the middle of the investigation, and Trump didn't. He kept saying, look, let Mueller do his thing. I can fire him. And that's how Trump is. He always put in there what he can do. Doesn't mean he's going to do it. I can fire him if I want to. I can get rid of him, snap, and he'd be gone. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let him do whatever he need to do. So where do you get the obstruction from? Because he met with Comey, and according to the Comey letters, which might be a lie, do Comey got an audio of this? That Trump say, hey, you my guy, I like loyalty. And he probably do, but did Trump really say that? Probably did. But does that mean he was telling Comey, look, I need you on my side? Probably did, probably didn't. The bottom line is not illegal. It's always good to have loyal people on your team.
And so you also obviously have Congress now going to be trying to get the material, trying to figure out what's in there. There's certainly precedent for them subpoenaing the material and getting it because of what Republicans did with Hillary Clinton's 302s. Is that going to happen here? And when they get that material, what are they going to find?
Number one, I think that's where the big fight goes. All of this was always about whenever
you say that's a big fight. The president, though, said release it all on Friday. The Republicans and the Democrats voted unanimously to release the entire report. They're already on record saying that, right?
This is what I think is shaping up as a clever strategy, and that's what it looks like, a good cop, bad cop. So Donald Trump Jr. says release it all. Donald Trump Sr., the president, says release it, and I told the House to have that happy vote. Meanwhile, Barr, who works in the Trump administration, is the one speeding a process. I mean, this was a very quick weekend process to issue big, sweeping conclusions.
Why you got to say he's speeding? The bottom line is Mueller said there's nothing there. So why I got to take 10 weeks for him to write a letter agreeing with Mueller? Mueller said, look, there's no collusion. I'm not exonerating him of some other things, but there's no collusion and there's no obstruction. But that doesn't mean he's exonerated. I got other stuff in the pipe that he's done, and they're already working that in the lower courts of Manhattan and things like that concerning Trump, because Trump has always been a crook. Just like Hillary has always been a crook. And what we did, we had a choice between male crook, female crook, big crook, little crook, billionaire crook, 100-millionaire crook. Both of them power-hungry crooks, and made the best crook win, and Trump beat Hillary Clinton. So he's the best crook. Bottom line, Hillary Clinton's still a crook. So no, it don't take all this time, Joe, to write a letter on the findings that you got of Mueller. If you've been conversating with Mueller back and forth, you've been connecting with Mueller, you looked at the Mueller report and you wrote your letter, that's fine. Now, when you get it, the reason Trump can say, hey, have at it, Hoss. I want y'all to go ahead and look into it because he feel confident that he didn't do this. The fact of the matter is y'all just don't understand that man, sorry as a politician, first time out the bat, outdid a legendary legend known as Hillary Clinton in campaigning.
About a 22-month investigation's findings, but now a very slow, what appears to be a slower process to release the report itself. And that, again, goes to something very important here. We don't know why Bob Mueller wrote the obstruction section the way he did. And it's not for us to put ourselves in place of Bob Mueller because we don't know. What we do know is that Barr has decided to release certain things very quickly and other things not. And when you look at the first page of that letter, it tells us that there were 500 witness interviews. It tells us there were 2,800 subpoenas. It tells us all sorts of interesting things that actually get closer, not to sources and methods, but to the scope of the probe. You know what it doesn't tell us, Joe? How many pages was this report that Barr spent the weekend reading?
We don't even know that.
If it was 30 pages, perhaps it would look much more reasonable. If it was 300, well, that was a quick weekend with just a skeletal staff. And so,
all right, so let's answer that question, because if Mueller gave a summary, then of course he is going to give a summary. He's basically going to say whatever Mueller said. Now let's go back to this. Special counsel investigated by the numbers. There was 19 lawyers on this team, 40 FBI agent, analysts, and staff. They issued 2,800 subpoenas. Subpoenas just as come in and let's talk to you. Doesn't mean you're a criminal, but they'll try to make sure, they try to make it sound like 2,800 subpoena mean you're in big trouble. No, they called in 2,800 people to listen to them, to get asked questions. Nearly 500 search warrants executed because he's trying to do his job to see if there any evidence, and about 500 witness interviewed. So with all that, MSNBC and Morning Joe, with 19 lawyers who looked in this case, 40 FBI agents and analysts and staff, 2,000 subpoena, nearly 500 search warrant executed, about 500 witnesses interviewed out of the 500 people with the search warrant. All these numbers you got in the red to make it seem scary. Out of all that, Robert Mueller still said no Russian collusion, and he did not obstruct justice. Now, you're going to get mad at Barr because he didn't have something different to say. Come on, dude. Come on. Joe, come on. I know you've been kissing up on your wife, your newlyweds. The newlywed thing is clouding your mind, man. Come on, man. Think for yourself.
Reasonable. If it was 300, well, that was a quick weekend with just a skeletal staff. And so, again, I think Barr has obviously reinforced what was a key finding that's good for Trump, no matter how you slice it, no chargeable collusion. But Barr has also now taken this and made it all about the Barr letter, and he's clearly being selective. Now, some will say they support that. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Michael Schmidt again, a guy who was skeptical of this probe from the very beginning, a guy who basically was fishing for a job from Donald Trump from the very beginning. You don't just write those memos and go, oh, by the way, Mr. President, here's something you would like very much. It did the trick just like...
Okay, so just because he won a job for Trump and he got a job mean that something's up with his letter. It doesn't matter, dude. It's his decision on what he's going to do or not. He's in charge. And if the investigator said nothing, nada, none, so we're done. I found nothing saying he obstructed justice. I found nothing to say that Russians were colluding and they were colluding. I'm sure they had some talk with some Russian, but it don't mean they're colluding. Come on, Joe, man. Come on. I know Mika beautiful and you get lost in her beautiful... Come on, dude. Come on, dude. Bring your face up, man. Take a breather. Your face, you got to get your face, lift your head up, man. Take some air. I think you've been looking down a little bit too long, bro. Get a grip.
Like Whitaker going on TV did the trick to make him acting AG. But it's very interesting. You had a comment yesterday where you said, well, okay, you appoint a special counsel because you want to take politics out of the case. He does this investigation. They take politics out of the case. But then they have two DOJ appointed officials, political officials, making this determination on collusion and obstruction.
So Mueller goes out, makes his, collusion decision, has this, whatever he comes to on obstruction, and then the politicos are the ones who say, no, we don't think the president broke the law. Then what was Mueller? Part of my understanding of why they wanted Mueller there was to make a decision that the public would say, okay, we feel really confident in this, that someone went out and followed the facts, someone who could stand there and make a tough call wherever the facts were. And in the end, it's Barr and Rosenstein.
But why
who make
would
the call.
Barr make that call over a weekend after we had this 2-year investigation when he had to know there would be a political firestorm?
I still don't understand it. I think he will have to explain more of what was really behind that, because the other thing in the letter that I didn't understand is he says, well, one of the key facts is that we didn't find that there was an underlying crime, that there was no, when we looked at all this stuff, there was nothing to obstruct. When a special counsel is appointed, it's usually not the issue that they're looking at that becomes the problem for the person under investigation. It's something else. Well, in this case, what was an outgrowth of this? The case in New York, where the president has essentially been named as an unindicted co-conspirator in the payments for the Stormy Daniels payments. So what was the president thinking in May and June and July of 2017, where he's saying, Bob Mueller better not look at my finances. Right. Bob Mueller better not look at my money. And what comes out of Bob Mueller? The president's an unindicted co-conspirator in New York.
All right, so I don't remember Trump ever saying that, because he know that the special counsel going to look at his finances. I mean, any dummy, and I mean any dummy, would know that when they investigate you, they're going to investigate you. They're going to look at every nook and cranny in your life to find out what's wrong and what's right, and they're going to focus on the wrong than the right. So going back to what I'm saying before, the Mueller report is done. He said no obstruction, no collusion. So he don't have to go read that thing 15 million times to try to come up with something different just to appease you guys. It's the same thing. He said, no, I'm looking at it, no Russian collusion, no obstruction of justice. Got nothing to do with misdemeanor and crimes outside the office. Got nothing to do with the Stormy Daniels. That's before he became president. President bought him some poom poom. How many people buy poom poom all day? And, of course, he had, him getting somebody to pay for it with his money. But the thing is you got to prove that it came out of the campaign money to get him some. So he could pay for Stormy Daniels. You got to prove that he took that out of campaign finances. You got to understand that man still had his own money. If he want to buy him some, he can buy him some. And if he want to have his lawyer buy it so his wife won't track it, then he can do that. But, of course, you're going to make it seem like that he used campaign finances to buy him some poom poom. Oh, horrible crime. Horrible crime. Horrible crime. The bottom line is, where are the crimes here? There's no crime in talking to people from Russia. There's no crime in talking to Russian officials. There's no crime talking to people from the Kremlin. There's no crime talking to Putin. There's no crime talking to adoption agency. There's no crime in that. There's no crime in him firing James Comey. He deserved it. You guys are just getting upset because they ain't got nothing on the Teflon Don at this moment. But believe me, when he get out of office, the Teflon has to come off. And they're going to get him. They're going to be standing there. As Gene Huger said, he may be leaving out of the White House in handcuffs. But he ain't going to be in the White House leaving out with handcuffs. He got to be elected out of office for that to happen. And as right now, we got still almost another 2 years before the election.
I've got to say, too, Mika, Mr. Barr, as the New York Times pointed out yesterday, has a very curious view of obstruction. So since there was an underlying crime, there can be no obstruction. That's not the standard. You still have people that can be found guilty of perjury if they're lying to the court. The purpose for obstruction is to make sure that investigations can move forward without people lying and getting in their way.
And we don't know what's actually in the report, the big battle. Benjamin Wittes, of course, will be actually seeing the report in its entirety. But this is Barr's interpretation of Mueller's report, made quickly over the weekend. What major questions and most important facts stand out to you?
All right, so the first most important fact is that he did not substantiate the underlying collusion allegation. And the key question...
Substantiate or not, he said no collusion, dude. No collusion.
There is how unsubstantiated is it in the underlying report? Is this an example where they investigated it and they found that it didn't happen? Mm-hmm. Is this... Yes, it was investigation. I don't like to call people idiots. Dude, numbnuts, dumb.
Hey, you. Lord forgive me. Why people are trying to complicate something so easy? They want details and they don't want to take summaries.
It's a situation where they investigated it and they came 2 inches short of a prosecutorial case, given a many hundred-page or many dozen-page discussion of this, whatever that answer is. That's a huge difference.
Well, and as as Lawfare said, it doesn't mean they didn't behave recklessly, foolishly, or unpatriotically. We don't have that information. We don't have the politically.
All right, Joe, what do you mean unpatriotically? Meeting with Russians is not unpatriotic. It's no more patriotic than you guys meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. It's no more unpatriotic than you guys meeting with the Saudis. Come on, Joe. So just because they talk to Russian, that mean they're not patriots? And look, God, I mean, I know it sounds like I'm a Republican and I'm on Team Trump. No, I'm on Team Facts. I'm on Team Truth. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter how they did it, what they did, the Russian toe dance, you know, when you're dancing and jumping with the leg up in the air and say, hey, it doesn't matter what you did, none of that. If you went to the Russian tea club and you got you some Russian prostitutes and, you know, or you was in a fight scene that come out of the movie with Neon Neeson. Come on. It's not about the bottom line is no collusion, no obstruction of justice. That's it. You could complicate this thing. You can try to get into detail. You can do all that, but no collusion, no obstruction of justice.
Embarrassing information that is contained in this report, the damning information that's contained in this report. And for people that are watching, they do need to understand there are a lot of things that can happen that come short of the standard of a prosecutor saying, okay, I'm going to move forward on charges.
Right. All right. Now, he's saying all this damaging stuff. He haven't even seen a report on it. I'm quite sure. I trust that Barr's seen it more than he did. And, if there was some damaging stuff in the report, dude, then the outcome would be damaging. But the outcome is not damaging on the situation of Russia and obstruction of justice. That's what you're looking for. Sure, as you get deeper into the reports, you're going to find out things that criminal things that he's done as a businessman before and now he's president. And yeah, when he's out of office, because you can't get him right now, they're going to deal with that. Everybody and their mama know that, dude. Everybody know. The only thing you can start working on Trump right now is if you can get him on the Monument Clause. Hopefully, in this report, they'll see that he violated the Monument Clause and move forward if they want to with impeachment. But by the time they get to trying to get to a point of trying to impeach Trump, because you're not going to change the Senate, and you got another election to get to the Senate, you're not going to change that right away. So in other words, the best way to get rid of Trump is vote him out, man, because going down this rabbit trail of obstruction of justice didn't work out because he said he didn't obstruct. This rabbit trail for 2 freaking years of this foolish, dumb mess when other things need to be talked about of Trump-Russian collusion, PP tape, dossier, and all that kind of stuff was a lie and made up, and that came out not true. No collusion. The only thing you'll be able to get him is the Monument Clause. But by the time you get him on that, you could have voted him out of office. Or you can wait till you get re-election, then go and get him for that. That's what they did to Bill Clinton. They let him get re-elected, and they finally got him online under oath about Monica Lewinsky and got him out of. Well, they still didn't get him out of office. He served the rest of his term after he got impeached. So you can impeach Trump, but that doesn't mean that he's going to leave the presidency. The bottom line, man, I'm almost done. No collusion. No obstruction. Barr don't have to come out with no 50 million letters and try to be all elaborate to come to the same conclusion. No collusion. No obstruction. He ain't got to come up with a 45 million page report. He ain't got to read all of the report to sustain the fact that no Russian collusion, no obstruction. Now, like I said, once you go in the report, you're going to see some damaging things about how Trump do business, but can't do nothing about that right now. We all know. Smart people knew he was a crook. It's not surprising. Y'all crying because this crook. All right, let me keep going.
It is consistent with the Barr letter for that underlying report to say, we found that there was no collusion. It is also consistent with the Barr letter for that report to say, we found that we could not bring a case because we had clear and convincing evidence of collusion, but not proof beyond a reasonable doubt of.
Like they did Hillary Clinton, but they did not do that. They just say no collusion.
Collusion. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is this issue you guys have been discussing about the obstruction. Robert Mueller clearly found that there was substantial evidence of obstruction. He clearly found that there was a plausible case to bring on a variety of possible obstructions because he, as Barr describes, he describes the conduct and he evaluates the pros and cons of bringing an obstruction case, of treating it as an obstruction, but then concludes.
Here we go again. He clearly found. He clearly didn't find it, man. If he found it, he would have reported it. His behavior. That got nothing to do with obstruction. Now, trying to block something from happening, that's obstruction. But just because I feel like I'm being watched, man. When you feel like somebody watching your every move, you're gonna act weird. You're gonna act like you don't feel right, man, and you're gonna be acting not normal.
That he shouldn't make a traditional prosecutorial judgment. The question is, why should he not make a traditional prosecutorial judgment there in his mind? Why should he not evaluate it along a traditional criminal axis?
And you just have to ask a question, David Ignatius. What's the rush? I mean, he just got this material, this voluminous material. There is no reason other than political reasons.
All right. First, y'all was trying to rush him to come to the conclusion of Trump being guilty because you're like, what's taking so long? What's taking Robert Mueller so long? Now you're saying, what's the rush? And now you're saying this is clearly political. Political for what? Nobody's running this year. Political for who? Somebody running for governor? Who is it political for, Joe? Because the election ain't for almost another 2 years. A year and 8 months? So how is this political, dude? Everything is political.
To rush and within 36 hours, 36 hours of getting this entire report, actually looking at what Robert Mueller said, who said there's very concerning information here, balancing it, we haven't been able to come to a conclusion. But moving it on to the Attorney General.
Joe, you can see reasons why Barr would have wanted to move quickly to send out a letter that explained to Congress and the country the basics of what Mueller had concluded. There's a separate question. He was asked to make a judgment that Mueller wasn't prepared to make about obstruction, and that's where the rush.
No, we don't know that he was asked to do that.
Well, I mean, the implication is that Mueller.
Not really. The letter, I have to say, having studied the letter and covering this all night, the letter does not assert that Mueller asked him to make that judgment. The letter doesn't even claim that. That's an important distinction. What the letter says is Mueller didn't reach that judgment. Well, in the Clinton case, which was under a different statutory power, but just to put it simply for people, we didn't do the whole Starr investigation and then have Janet Reno decide whether there was obstruction. In the Nixon case, we didn't go through two special prosecutors and then have Mitchell decide whether there was obstruction. In other words, everything we know about how this has always worked is that the cases that go to the obstructive or a potential high crime territory, even if you clear a president, are done typically by whether the House wants to pursue impeachment and does the Senate want to have a trial, not typically by the AG. So the difference here seems to be Barr inserting himself. I'm not saying that means he's wrong. I'm just saying it's not what Mueller asked.
Exactly.
Mueller was appointed.
All right, let me stop this. He's right. It's not normally the Attorney General that does that. He just does his letter. on the findings of the report. Just like Loretta Lynch, pretty much she said, I'm not going to even touch the Clinton case because of what Comey did. Comey didn't do what he should do, just like they said Mueller didn't do what he should do. We all know Comey should have had her on the oath. We all know that she was going to lie through her teeth. Trump was smart enough to say, hey, ask me the questions, mail it to me, but you ain't going to get me on the oath, dude. That just ain't going to happen because I know y'all going to try to trip me up. And besides, I'm a great liar, and all I do is lie, lie, lie. And why I'm going to go ahead and incriminate myself by coming to meet you to answer your questions when I know I'm just going to lie. No, just write me the letter. It's not, you can't put me on the oath. And that's how he arranged that thing. But he's right. I mean, what they got to do. So if Mueller's saying there's no conclusion on obstruction, well, right now they don't have no evidence of saying he did right now. They just might be saying there's no conclusion. But there is a conclusion on the Trump-Russian thing. There's no conspiracy. All right. And like I said, just because a person act weird doesn't mean they're trying to obstruct justice. He had every right to fire Comey. So we can go on this thing. And based on the behavior of him getting rid of this person and this person drop out, it could look like he's trying to get people away from knowing certain things. But you still got to prove that. They still got to go through an investigation on its own, and still got to go through Congress to be voted on and things like that to move him to a point where he can get impeached.
To reach a prosecutor declined to prosecute judgment on issues that arose in his investigation. And I can't help but think that he ducked the latter half of that. He stepped up to the collusion issue. He defined what reading from Barr's account, to define what he thought collusion meant here, working with this very professional intelligence operation run from Moscow. But on obstruction, he wouldn't make the decision that I think he was charged to make.
But you know that he has to abide by DOJ rules, which say that he, like any other prosecutor, does not indict a sitting president. So given that, it is not, I don't think, the most reasonable inference of a letter that's about a report we haven't seen that Mueller was deciding whether or not to break DOJ policy and indict the sitting president. Everything we know about the rules goes in the other direction.
I agree with that. I think the
right, me too.
What we know is that Mueller didn't make the judgment. We don't know whether Barr insinuated himself into the situation and made the judgment or arrogated it to himself to make the judgment. And we don't know whether Mueller declined to make the judgment because, for example, he thought the decision was too hard and he was punting, or because he was laying out a record for adjudication by Congress, which is what I suspect reality.
No, Benjamin and Joe. The reason he did not go that far because that was not the original case that he was hired to investigate. He was hired to investigate the Trump-Russian conspiracy. Anything else came after that. Out of the Trump-Russia conspiracy came he's committing obstruction of justice. Well, that's not my case. If you need somebody to look into that, you get somebody to look into that. I cannot come to no conclusion on that because that was not the case that I originally designed to investigate. Now, mind you, it wasn't his job to investigate high crimes and misdemeanors. Yeah, but he did that anyway. And yes, he could have investigated on the conclusion on obstruction, but he said, look, I can't come up with no conclusion on that. You guys need to take it from here by getting the Senate to be involved in investigating that. I'm out. No collusion. I'm out. That's it.
Benjamin, here's the deal, though. This is what makes no sense. I'm a dumb country lawyer here, right? But I think
the last refuge of counsel.
Yeah, I think this is dictated where Robert Barr's position is this: you cannot indict a sitting president, right? So if his position is you cannot indict a sitting president, then why is he drawing a conclusion on whether he can indict, whether this president could be indicted, when what Robert Mueller was doing all along, and people close to Mueller said all along he was gathering evidence to pass along to Congress to make that decision? Why would he even tip this?
All right, here we go with this people close to Mueller says. That doesn't mean nothing, Joe. You could be making that up. I heard from my sister, cousin, brother, uncle who worked at the bar over there on 3rd Street while he was driving the truck later on that night. That ain't got nothing to do with anything, what his people said. It's all about what Robert Mueller said.
Close to Mueller said all along he was gathering evidence to pass along to Congress.
Who said that? Why are they not on the show? Who said that he was gathering this evidence to give the Congress? No, they did not. That is not. Stop, Joe. You're lying. You hired Mueller to do an investigation, and he came up with his conclusion. Was it Comey's job to get all the information and pass it on to Congress to indict Hillary Clinton? No. Stop, Joe.
To make that decision. Why would he even tip the scales if, at the end of the day, it was going to have no impact?
Okay. There was never, you're absolutely right, there is never a chance that Bob Mueller was going to indict Donald Trump while he remained in office. DOJ policy forbids it. Mueller was bound by that policy. He was going to observe it. The relevant question here is therefore not an operative question. It's just, is the Justice Department going to say that we think Donald Trump committed a crime to a standard that's provable beyond a reasonable doubt or not? Mueller clearly made the judgment, I am going to lay out the record and let other people make that determination.
And Ken Starr, Joe, Ken Starr to this day asserts that his report, while it presented overwhelming evidence of what he called obstruction, his report did not resolve this. In other words, if you believe Ken Starr, and people debate with him, the Ken Starr position is now also what Barr suggests the Mueller position is, which is amassing evidence but not rushing to take the place of the House when it comes to matters of potential high crimes.
So, Mike Barnicle, if the United States Congress is going to be making a determination on whether the President of the United States obstructed justice, which of course were articles of impeachment for both Richard Nixon and Bill Clinton. If they're going to make that determination, they have to see the material that Robert Mueller has. So if William Barr is going to be holding these cards close to his chest, isn't he going to be getting in the way of what actually the entire purpose of the Mueller investigation was? To get information to Congress so they could make the decision.
That's correct. Again, Joe, who told you that that was the purpose of him doing the investigation? They did the investigation. He said, I find no Trump-Russian conspiracy, but no conclusion on obstruction. It's still an open case. Okay? Obviously, there wasn't enough to conclude that there was an obstruction. And you guys don't like that. There wasn't enough. So there's no conclusion on it right now. Give me more evidence, then we can conclude it. Now, you saying that he made this, his purpose was to go through all this, to find that there's no Trump-Russia conspiracy, no collusion, and give it over to the Congress so they can deal with it. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is it said right under your own breaking news. Mueller report finds no Trump-Russian conspiracy, no conclusion on obstruction. Why? Because his original case was not that. That wasn't his case. His case was finding out if Trump colluded with Russia or the Trump team. He found that out. That's it. He can't come to a conclusion on obstruction right now because there's not enough evidence. And if there's enough evidence, he's out. He's gone. Barr is in. Barr made a conclusion based on what he said. You trying to tell me he can't make that conclusion? You trying to tell me that the investigation was not designed for him to make the decision whether to prosecute or not? Because we said the same thing about Loretta Lynch and James Comey. Loretta Lynch decided not to prosecute based on the findings of James Comey. So what's the difference? Did the Senate take up the case after that? Did they hand that stuff over and give it to the Senate to see if she should be prosecuted or not as the Secretary of State? So what's the difference, Joe? Stop.
Correct, Joe, and we're not going to be able to talk about this knowledgeably, fully knowledgeably, until we see the report, until the American public sees the report. I was told yesterday by two people who know Bob Mueller very well and know aspects of this investigation. And both of them said you cannot overestimate the importance.
There we go again. I talk to people who know Bob Mueller. That doesn't mean nothing. Talk to Bob Mueller. Get Mueller on the TV. Get Mueller to say something. Or get one of his aides or his secondary aide or somebody that actually was one of the investigators. Get one of the lawyers on the team. One of the people that he subpoenaed, whatever. Get something. But don't tell me about friends of Robert Mueller, a cousin, uncle that used to play skeet ball back in the day, or, you know, stick ball. Come on, man.
By two people who know Bob Mueller very well and know aspects of this investigation. And both of them said you cannot overestimate the importance on the obstruction issue of Mueller's team being unable to get Trump to testify Q&A back and forth in private. Don't overestimate the importance of the absence of Trump's testimony.
Yeah, there we go. And that just because Trump won't go meet with him, something is up. So that's what his cousin, friend, sister said.
Because Bob Mueller is a man of deep integrity, and to charge a president or anyone with obstruction of justice requires state of mind. We don't...
Hold on, let me go back. Did he say Bob Mueller is a man of deep integrity, the man who lied us into a war with Iraq and had thousands of our soldiers get killed and hundreds of thousands of innocent Iraqis get killed? Did he just say that?
Is a man of deep integrity.
Yeah, he said
and to
that.
charge a president or anyone with obstruction of justice requires state of mind. We don't really know what Trump's state of mind was or is about all of the events that would give you strong suspicions that he did try to obstruct justice. We know
Right.
about the tweets; those are public, but we don't know about his state of mind. Is the tweets reflective of his state of mind? And it's a very tough call to take that to court, because it's a high bar to convict someone of obstruction. I'd leave it to the legal experts on the panel to argue with that, but that's what I was told.
All right, Barbara McQuaid, want you to weigh in overall on your reaction to the report.
Finally, the
Again,
woman
we
get to
don't
the
know how
woman.
long the report is.
Men been
We don't
dominating
know
this
what
whole
the facts are
conversation.
in the report that led to the one conclusion and the remaining question. And the question I have for you is the fact that this has been interpreted by Donald Trump's latest pick for Attorney General. What questions do you have? What areas are you concerned where you need to see the facts before ultimately you can make a conclusion to yourself in terms of obstruction of justice and any other issues that might be damaging to this president?
To me, the biggest question that Barr's letter raises is why on earth is he the one inserting himself and making this ultimate decision on obstruction of justice? The whole purpose for having a special counsel was to have an independent, objective viewpoint insulated from the chain of command so that the public could have confidence in the outcome here. It's as if Tom Brady has been your quarterback for the entire season and the entire Super Bowl, and for the very last play, Bill Belichick, the coach, comes in and says, I'm going to take this last play, stand down, Tom. What on earth is that all about? I mean...
Well, it doesn't matter if you get the touchdown. I don't like the Patriots anyway. I don't like this guy right here. He look like he's up to something. But I don't know the person heart and mind, so I don't know why he came out with the report, with the letter. But his letter is basically undergirding what Mueller said.
It appears that Robert Mueller found evidence on both sides with the idea that because a sitting president cannot be indicted, he just provided the evidence so that Congress could make that call. Why on earth is William Barr then inserting himself and making that decision? I think that raises a lot of questions, and I think that means that we really need to see as much as we can from this report so that the public can have confidence this was an appropriate decision.
So we were flashing a lot of headlines. We're going to go to break, and we're going to do a lot more of this after the break. But we showed the Dallas Morning News and showed some other newspapers. Some newspapers' headlines said, no collusion, no exoneration. And that's what I saw in a lot of news networks yesterday. But I want you to look at that headline. That's the headline that is going to cut through America today. You want to know what Americans are going to take away from this, regardless of what's said in the coming months? That's your headline. Report, no collusion.
Well, that's your head.
And was it a lie, Joe?
Headline and the conversations to come are the political results of this headline. And this is a huge win, hands down, black and white, for President Trump. Absolutely.
Oh, listen, it is. It is. I will only say, I think it was either McMillan or Heath that said, in politics, a week is a lifetime.
Absolutely.
In Trump world, a day is an eternity. So you know, I would not run victory laps for Donald Trump yet, and I would not sing death dirges for the Democratic Party yet, only because things move so fast in this administration. Much more to come.
All right, shut up, Joe. That man could go ahead and run a lap. All right, so let's go back to this paper. It said, no collusion. That's the truth. And that need to be at the head of the paper, because there's no collusion between Trump. Down at the bottom, it says smaller, but it's still big. No evidence Trump campaign conspired. No evidence. Next one, it also does not exonerate him, Mueller wrote. It doesn't exonerate him. In other words, he's not 100% free, because we're still looking at other stuff he did outside of the Trump-Russian thing. He said calls made for a full report to be released. Of course, everybody wants to see the full report to be released, because they're shocked that that there's no collusion. It's not even fact of the it's not even the fact that they're not done with obstruction. That Mueller said, I can't say a conclusion on Russian. I mean on I can't conclude the now the bottom line is this, and computer acting up, so I apologize for that. Hey, it's over with when it comes to Russian collusion. We don't need to keep harping on that. The only thing you want to worry about now is the obstruction of justice. And that's a different case. You're going to have to get a different investigator. And by the time you get it over to Congress, Trump probably will be out of office if y'all can be successful in defeating him. And the way you're going right now is going to embolden him and his supporters, and going to cause more supporters to come his way, because you're making him look like he's been on a witch hunt. And that's the bottom line. Now, guys, I want to thank you for taking time to be on Rob Report Live. And I apologize again. You see that right eye? It is pink. And I was going to put my patch on and try to work it out, but I didn't want to look like no pirate. But nevertheless, I want to thank those. And I'm going to put the list of the people who donated this month to the efforts of Bob TV. If you are interested in liking, subscribe, share, we hit 10,000 plus. Thanks to you guys. Like I said, in January, I was at 2,000, so I don't know what happened. I'm not worried about it. I'm just going to keep doing what I do. I just chalk that up as the grace of God, blessing the show and blessing you guys. But for those who did support, especially now, and one reason why I say support through PayPal is because whenever you do a super chat on Google, it goes into Google AdSense, and AdSense send me a check, and that is counted as income when it comes to, you know, my position of me still fighting my job. Actually, I go in Friday is the court date to fight for my job back. My union is working with me to get my job back. But in the meantime, I have to collect unemployment because of this situation. And Google is, I have to report the income that I get. And whatever income I did get from Google from the ad, it could be $20. I have to report that I worked that day, even though this is my hobby. It is not a job. I love doing this. It's just extra stuff I do on my own free time. I don't consider this work. But they want to try to take money out as a result. So anytime I put down that I work today, they'll take $100 out of my unemployment check here in New York City. Okay, so if you guys are donating, donate through PayPal. That is a donation. I don't want to take these I don't want Google taking these donations and making it look like an earning. So I'm gonna put a list of the people who all donated probably this Sunday on my website and on the Patreon channel. I really appreciate you guys. Pray for me. Keep your fingers crossed. I go in and I go face to face with these corporate nut jobs and battle with them over something that was beyond my control, and that's the trains. The trains in New York City suck. They have you late all the time, and it's not your fault. Yet these companies want to still try to let you go anyway. And like I said, I love my job. I love my job, and that's the reason why I'm fighting. And I'm not going to let them take my vacation time and all that kind of stuff away from me that I earned. But more importantly, I like my job and I like what I do. I get to work with the elderly people here in New York City, and I appreciate the work that I do. It's not about the money. It's about the satisfaction. The money pays the bills, but it's the satisfaction I get. Just like this, I don't do this for the money. I give opportunity for people to donate through PayPal or become a Patreon on my Patreon channel. But whether you give or not, this is my joy doing this. I love doing this. I don't sweat money. Money is nothing over happiness. I'd rather be happy and barely pay my bills and have enough money to go out and have a little fun versus being miserable and having a lot of money coming in. And 10,000 to 100,000, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be the same old Bob TV that I was when I was at 100. It doesn't matter. I'm going to love people. I do this as a service to the people. I do this because I love you. That's it. I leave everything else up to a higher power. Well, anyway, this is Robert Brown with the Rob Report. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. When I do these live shows, it's going to be anywhere 30, 45 minutes to an hour. But on the weeks, I usually just I'm going to try to work harder on doing quick, choppy content, kind of like what Cal Kalinske do, where it's just a short segment, and that's it. So I'm going to work on that during the week, but I want to turn this, what I'm doing right now, into either keep it the Rob Report Live, or I'm going to name it Meet the, Meet the Press? Meet the Nation. I want to take Face the Press and Meet the Nation and some of that bull crap they talk on there, mash it together and start a new show called Meet the Nation. And we're basically going to do what we do right here, chopping down that bull crap that they spit on there. And we're going to do that live. I just haven't picked a date to do it. The Rob Report will not be live in the future. It will be pre-recorded, chopped up in segments. That's that. But Meet the Nation is something that's going to be live. So anyway, let me let you guys go to sleep. It's late, and I know you got a lot to do. I love you guys, and thank you for watching the Rob Report. Peace.